Okay, we will start. Oh, okay. Okay, now we will start our session. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this NSTDA-Julich joint seminar. My name is Lily Ervilaitit and I'm Vice President of International Collaboration at Thailand's National Science and Technology Development Agency, or NSTDA. And it is my great pleasure to be the MC of today's event and to see such interest in this discussion. So in this seminar, our goal is to explore how we can strengthen ASEAN-Germany research collaboration towards a biocircular and green economy, which is our national agenda for this year. So NSTDA and Forschungszentrum Jülich, or Jülich, have developed a very successful collaboration over the last 4 years. And we would now like to expand this collaboration by involving partners from ASEAN. So the session today is very timely. This year, Thailand and Germany are celebrating 160 years of diplomatic relations. And the motto for this anniversary year is Partners for Sustainable Development. The theme of today's event is the biocircular and green economy, which is, of course, an essential component of sustainable development. So before we start today's discussion, I would like to inform you that if you have questions, please type them in the chat box, and your question will be shared with the speakers during the Q&A after each presentation and also in the panel session. I would also like to inform everyone that in accordance with the NSTDA privacy policy, your information from registration will be kept confidential. This activity will be recorded and later uploaded to public on NSTDA website. If there are any privacy concerns, you may ensure by turning off your camera. Now, let's get started. First of all, we have some welcome remarks from Dr. Narongsirirudwarakul, the president of NSTDA. He cannot join us today, but has kindly pre-recorded a message for us.
A very good morning to our colleague in Germany, and a very good afternoon to colleague in Asia. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to today's event on strengthening ASEAN-Germany research collaboration towards a biocircular green economy, which we have organized in cooperation with our colleagues at Forschungszentrum Jülich in Germany. ASEAN is facing a number of challenges, including climate change, resource scarcity, pollution, and environmental degradation. To overcome these challenges and to achieve sustainable and inclusive growth, we must capitalize our strengths and understanding our weaknesses. To address these global challenges, Thailand is implementing the concept of biocircular and green economy, so-called BCG economy models, as a key to sustainability. Using bioeconomy to create additional value from natural and biological resources, applying a circular economy approach to reusing and recycling resources, building a green economy to increase resource use efficiency while reducing environmental risk. But Thailand recognizes that we cannot tackle these global challenges alone. We have therefore launched the ASEAN BCG network to strengthen ASEAN capability in research, development, and technology diffusion to enable the adoption of applicable technologies for sustainable development. During the last 4 years, NSTDA and Jülich have built a very successful research collaboration focused on the bioeconomy. We are now very keen to expand and deepen this cooperation with involving regional partners from across ASEAN. The aim is to create knowledge exchange platform where NSTDA and Jülich can share success stories and lessons learned, as well as engage with potential research partners in the region in order to support the further development of the biocircular and green economy across ASEAN. I would like to wish you a very successful meeting today, and I look forward to hearing about all of these exciting project ideas that arise from today's discussion. Thank you very much.
So that's the President of NSTDA, Dr. Narong Sriratbrakul, with the welcome remarks. So now I would like to invite Professor Dr. Ulrich Schur, Director of IBT2 Plant Science, Forschungszentrum Jülich, to provide some context for our discussion today. For those of you who may not be aware, Jülich is one of the largest interdisciplinary research institutions in Europe with more than 7,000 employees, including 672 visiting scientists from 62 countries. So Professor Schur, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Lilly, very much for the introduction, and also thank you very much for all the organization, to all the NSTDA colleagues for this meeting, and also for the great collaboration in the past years. I got the task here today to give a little bit an insight into lessons learned from our cooperation, which we have now since several years, and as a basis for building a successful German-ASEAN research partnership. And I think it's very nice to actually see how this developed over the last years. Before doing that, I would very shortly like to introduce you shortly to the Forschungszentrum Jülich and where we are working here. We are part of the so-called Helmholtz Association. Helmholtz Association is the biggest research organization in Europe, where we have more than 40,000 employees in 19 Helmholtz centers across Germany, as you can see on the map on the right side. We are contributing to solving major challenges, which Dr. Narong has just mentioned, quite a number of them, which are also challenges here in Europe. And we aim to contribute this by generating top research and also impact in major 6 research areas. Information, taking it from the right to the left, health, matter, energy, aeronautics, space and transport, but also earth and environment, where our bioeconomy interactions are involved. And this is very important to see this, that we are embedded in a larger network, which also helps in order to set up these kind of corporations. Jülich ourselves, we are working in 3 of these major research areas of Helmholtz, mainly information, energy, and earth and environment, where our bioeconomy activities are in there. And we are providing user-inspired fundamental research in these 3 topics, and also the interaction of them. And this is also an aspect which we are bringing into the collaboration together with our colleagues in Thailand. And we are talking about how to generate knowledge and technology transfer in order to generate impact. In Jülich ourselves, we are having 11 large institutes. We altogether are some 7,000 employees here in the Forschungszentrum. And we have a revenue of about 800 million euros per year, plus the 650 visiting scientists, with Dr. Lilly just already mentioned, because we are aiming also to a very close interaction on an international scale. To mention this also, and because also my colleague Veronica is in here, also later for the presentation, we also have a project management activity here in Jülich, the PTJ, not to mix up with the institute. This is a separate unit which is doing project management for various ministries in Germany, but also on a European scale. In Jülich, our strategic research is aiming to link into these 3 major areas of information, energy, and bioeconomy, and we actually integrate them. And you can see that we have different activities in these areas. We have neurosciences, we have high-performance computing and information technology in the information sector. In the energy sector, our main target is energy, renewable energies, climate research, and energy systems of the future. And in bioeconomy, we have the ecosphere, the economic part, the plant production, biotechnology, and biorefineries, and new value chains in integrating all of these activities into socio-economic context. And it's very important for us to link all these 3 elements. And this is also happening within the context of the cooperation with Thailand. Now I want to shortly bring you into the success factors and the outlook and how we actually achieved the very successful collaboration between NSTDA and Jülich. We actually, this has now a history of almost 10 years. So even we are saying this is something which happened over the last 4 years, we have a longer history there since 10 years. And the initiation phase was generated from first contacts to cooperation agreement, where we started with direct visits of Professor Morakot here in Jülich, and then we started to have kind of counter visits and generated first momentum by generating a cooperation agreement at the Thai-German Bioeconomy Conference and have a framework cooperation agreement. The next step was then to have successful projects, and this is very important if you want to convince your scientists that this is something useful, that you really do something where it's on the ground work, where we have matching interests, where we are generating momentum for the entire process of generating this integration. The next step is then to generate political support and generate also governance. This provides a stable framework, which obviously we had a lot of opportunities, and we're very happy to have Princess here and to also support us in that context. But we also had the opportunity to have to generate a joint lab, where we also have people now sitting in Thailand, in Bangkok, which are our kind of bridgeheads into the Thai background, and which gives a lot of opportunities and provides a stable framework, generating the opportunity to develop all this collaboration. The next step was then a joint strategy. So if we have projects, if we have a joint governance, we can also do a joint strategy and develop more projects. And you will see more about the projects in the next talk by Tobias. What kind of projects have been developed there and how they're actually matching the different opportunities which are coming in from Jülich side and also from the Thai side. And we also extended it into exchange processes, like, for example, a scholarship, which is now established between KMUTT and Jülich on scholarship exchange of students. And last but not least, we go into multilateral collaboration. This is exactly what we are talking about today. Also within projects, also within expansion opportunities, what we discussed today. So if you ask me what are the factors of success of this project, of this collaboration, which is now coming into its next step, also with this presentation today and this event today. First, obviously, matching interests are very important. We have to have joint interests and synergies in scientific, educational, technological, economic questions in order to build trust and friendship between the different organizations and people. This goes beyond quick wins, so we should not just look for harvesting funds. This is a long-term perspective and really a trustful collaboration. This is also obviously looking into win-win situations where long-term perspectives and serious collaboration goes hand in hand. The next step is factor of success is support. Support from the scientists, because we really need to have true interest in cooperation. The support from high-level politics to generate a framework and positive opportunities. The support from decision makers also in the research centers themselves to provide rapid response and joint governance in order to steer the whole process. And also from funding agencies, which we also will talk in a few minutes on calls and smooth interactions, not only on the calls, but also in the smooth interaction when the projects run themselves. We need to have stamina, a long-term perspective, this is a more kind of marathon, not a short-term win. So we have to have really built on joint interests to go beyond the initial joint interest into a jointly developed future and strategy. And there's also joint funding. Research collaboration requires resources, and this also requires a longer-term perspective. And the key thing to everything is people. You need to have champions to lead, and also people who will do the hard work. And this is not that everything is smooth. There are hurdles in between. But if you have people who are championing this whole process, and if you have people who are willing to do the hard work, it's very likely that we can gain something out of that. And with that, I would like to give back to Dr. Lilly and also then to Tobias and to all the colleagues. And thank you very much also for the very good collaboration in the past, and to also look into these people which make the process really work. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for sharing the factor of success and in long-term collaboration. I think I really very agree with you very much on that. And also, I think you also provide us some context for our discussion today, and that's very useful as well. So we are very grateful to you and your colleague for the fantastic partnership we have built over the last 4 years. Thank you very much again. So now it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Tobias Wojciechowski, another key factor for success in our collaboration. He is a senior researcher at the Forschungszentrum Jülich, and he is currently a visiting professor of NSTDA. During this 20 minutes, he will present some of the success projects that NSTDA and Jülich have developed over the past several years. So Dr. Tobias, are you ready?
I hope I share my screen now. Can you see this?
Okay. Yes, we can see yours.
Okay.
Go on.
So thank you very much, Dr. Lili, for the introduction. As you said, I have two hats on, and this is also one of these stepping stones in the collaboration. I'm not only a senior scientist at IBG2, but also a visiting professor at NSTDA to really find new possibilities and develop new projects. And I will take through my talks through what I think is important to have this project, how we got to certain projects, and I think this will be a good insight in how our collaboration functions over the years. So, So we had first step together. As Professor Shu already showed, we had visiting visitors from Thailand who then invited us in 2014. We started visiting NSTDA. Then we started with the root phenotyping workshop in 2014 to get to know each other a little bit. And then BMBF had a great tool to facilitate these starting this collaboration, the traveling bioeconomy conferences in this framework. We were in Vietnam and Thailand in 2016. We also used this opportunity to sign the first memorandum of understanding between Forschungszentrum Jülich and NSTDA. And at the same time, we started submitting first project ideas. And I will come to this later because I will introduce Cassava Store, the Cassava Store project a little bit more. And I just want to mention that it's in the Bioeconomy International Framework, and I think we will have to hear more about this at a later point. Then I think for other projects, it started another with BMBF Mobility Scheme in 2018. It was a Sapphire project, followed up with different workshops, for example, precision agriculture in 2019. The Sapphire project was bringing ideas together. Basically, we had worked in Africa and developed a mobile app for African researchers. Engineers at NSTDA had developed a smartphone app regarding plant health, and we wanted to see how we can to bring this together, and this is quite a useful tool. And then at the precision agriculture workshop, so this is a picture from the Sapphire workshop. This is the precision agriculture workshop. We found out the need for irrigation projects, and I will come to that also later. So the first project, as I mentioned, was the Cassava Store project. It ran from 2017 to 21 due to COVID, a little bit longer than expected. We wanted to look at we wanted to utilize the genetic and phenotypic variation of storage root development of cassava and to improve an important bioeconomy crop. So my interest was sparked by this plant. It's very interesting. I mean, most Asian people will know this plant, of course, but it's a plant with storage root which contains a lot of starch, grows in marginal soil, and you can use the entire plant. And the plant can be used for the starch can be used and then also for value-added products in different industries. And we wanted to aim to increase the production of cassava over time by breeding new varieties which yield more in shorter time. And to do this, we we wanted to understand the phenotypic variation of the plant, and there we had engineers working together. We had to produce a kind of a phenotyping platform for an industry project in Germany. This then was transformed by engineers from NSTDA to adapt it to cassava. And on the right, you see a cassava root hanging then in this imaging platform where we will extract data from. So the cassava store project was quite great. So we had quite a lot to do. We were phenotyping root system variation of 600 accessions. They came from South America and Southeast Asian collection. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, we have a little bit of variation here compared to the Brazilian variety here. The Colombian on the left variety on the left develops storage root quite early and quite a lot, while this Brazilian one doesn't form storage root in 12 weeks at all. So this is, we knew that the variation existed. We needed to phenotype this and store that by looking at this. So we started looking at this from 3 weeks onwards to week 12, and you can see here, when we start after 3 weeks, the cutting has a few non-swollen adventitious roots, and over time the roots get less, and some of them start to swell and become storage roots. So we were interested in the root systems which, or in the genotypes or plants which were really fast or really slow, because we can use this to identify genes, and this then can lead to breeding of new varieties. As I said, the imaging station was built by colleagues from NSTDA. The engineers there adapted it. The cassava root system was quite big, so it had to be a big box. Then we took videos of the rotating root system and ended up that we phenotyped 54,000 single plants. That's extremely a lot, let me tell you. And this produced 9 million single frames of information, which of course couldn't be processed anymore by hand or so. So we had different teams, or still have different teams working on this, getting information out of this. What you see on the right hand side is in the blue field is the original root system, and then you see in the black field different colored lines, and the colors represent different diameters of roots. So it took quite a long time to develop a software which didn't measure the stem, which could extract or get information from each root and measure the diameter, which is not an easy task, especially not going across so many different diameters. And yeah, so this is the first one, how we get information about the 600 accessions, and we use this for to find genes. I have to mention that this expanded, there are 2 machine learning approaches now. One is located in another institute in Jülich. They were very happy to receive a large data set like this to work on this and work on counting these roots and so on, and tracking the roots. And there are also 2 master students at KMUTT in Thailand involved, who use also the data set to apply machine learning approaches to get further root traits or traits which we can use for future breeding and gene discovery. My point is that we had collaboration between engineers from both sides, but we also then expanded this because it's an interesting question to other groups in the research center or associated universities in Thailand. So on the top left corner, you see the phenotypic variation of 600 cassava accession. It's quite a lot, but I just want to show you that there is a lot of variation which we found in the project. And on the right-hand side, you see the genotypic variation. So at different or certain regions, we have different bases coding or nucleotides coding the DNA, and we found we sequenced all 600 accession at least 10 times. So each genome was on average sequenced for 10 times, and we found in total 17.4 million genome location where we found variation. And we will use this then to discover genes. Additionally, in the Cassava Store project, we did sequence gene expression, and you see here different weeks, and in pink upregulated and blue downregulated genes, which then we use to support in gene discovery. And we know already some genes which are involved in this storage root development, and yeah, so this is still an ongoing process, but we will present. We have the first scientific publication. There are more coming. We present this, and we also disseminate to the wider public in newspaper articles. We have a website. What is very important is that we have now public data, or will have a public database, and this will be hosted by the National Biobank in Thailand. We thought it's very important as also a trust building exercise that the data generated in Germany is then displayed with our partners in Thailand, where it makes more sense, because in Germany we don't work with cassava, but it was interesting to work with the plant and learn also something for our storage root crops. But we wanted to then make a point really to host it there. There were also what we used this project also to connect to further partners. And we had students project which were not in the original research plan, but were associated to the project. And so we could connect to a university in Hohenheim, and we had a master student from Hohenheim here looking at roots system interface. If you remember the pictures where I showed the variation, so there we have a lot of fine roots in the beginning, but we don't know which roots become storage roots in the end. And the hypothesis we had there was that it was connected directly to the phloem, so the tissue which provides the sugars to the root system, while also roots can develop out of wound tissue and so on, and which I don't have a direct connection. But our hypothesis was wrong, and we couldn't. So we could show that storage roots can develop from all tissues, and this was a nice master student project from a student from a different university, originally not in the project. On the right-hand side, on the bottom, you see two. Oh, I hope I can start the video somehow. Yeah. You see rotating root in the phenotyping platform, and right on that, the right root is a simulation. So there were Thai students this time working with a German colleague who created a 3D model of the root system, which we use to understand better the root system. Also, we had physiological data generated in Cassava Store, which is now visible in this little simulation, and it goes also beyond what we originally intended, and shows that it could be also that we have collaboration, Thai student and German supervisor. So this was Cassava Store. As I said, data is still coming, but I mentioned the Sapphire project and a smartphone application and the precision agriculture workshop. And then we discovered a need not only in Thailand, but also here for a more sustainable and more precise irrigation system. So it followed up that we had in Cassava Store already a sensor-based irrigation, but we wanted to increase this, and we used the EU ASEAN joint funding scheme to submit 2 projects regarding irrigation. One was the irrigation 4.0, which is a plant-based irrigation project. So we use the plant status to and measure their water content and decide when to water plants. And the bottom you see the direction project, where we use sensor and weather station data and use a crop model, which you partly saw as a root simulation to predict how much the farmers want to irrigate. And it might be hard to see. Here's a green line on the right, in the right picture. And after this is a prediction. So, so we can now predict what the farmer has to do or should do in the next 14 days. And we had a workshop in Ratchaburi earlier this year, and this was well received by the farmers. It allows, such a scheme would allow very sustainable water use and the production all year round of cassava, which of course is then also interesting for a circular bioeconomy. And yeah, so these are projects which came out of the need of the identified need from the mobility schemes which BMBF initiated, and is a continuation in the sense of the Cassava Store project. So the follow-up project in light of the joint lab, also we identified 4 themes we wanted to work together: phenotyping, platform and automation development. So we had the Cassava Store project in there. We have a joint PhD student project working on Holy Basel and using hyperspectral imaging for secondary to detect secondary metabolites. For value-added products and sustainable bioeconomy, we have a project which started now. The Pinya fiber project. We want to use pineapple leaf fibers to produce textiles and composites. It started now. It's not a pure Thai-German collaboration anymore. We also collaborate there internationally with Colombian partners. So we took the joint lab even further and on an international level. Then we had, for enabling technology, we worked with MTech of NASTA together, the material scientists who developed non-woven composites, and they had some effect on plants. So we used different colors. They produce these kind of pots out of these non-woven composites. We compared it versus plastic, grew it in our controlled environments, phenotyped the plants, and in the end we could show that certain colors of the non-woven pots, or all non-woven pots, are better than the plastic which are currently used, but colors influence also the yield of the fruits, and this was chili in this example, but we also worked with tomato and melon and found similar results. This was a project which was institutionally funded. This is a great opportunity which we have, and I think also what Professor Schur mentioned is a good way to start projects. I come then nearly to the end of my talk. From my personal experience is we have a lot of supportive measurements. We have the student and staff exchange, which facilitates a lot of projects. We have a lot of projects idea I didn't mention about. It takes time to develop this. So we talk about algae work and a lot of other things. I mentioned the institutionally funded projects. They are great because we can have small-scale experiments already, which we can then use later for grant application. A great help is the joint lab. So we have an office in Thailand now with permanent staff, where we can meet, discuss things, and you see in the bottom some pictures of my last visit there, where we talked about pineapple, paper writing, we developed projects and so on. A great help are mobility schemes of BMBF, as I said, for initiating projects, and this is now the next step of the project is my visiting professorship at NSTDA. So I will be working 3 months a year for NSTDA now and initiate projects, and this would be a great opportunity to contact me if you are interested and want to build something similar for the Asian area, other countries or other institutions. And here are contact details of myself and Kuntanapon. Kuntanapon is our woman in the office of the Joint Lab. She is crucial for our interaction between NSTDA. As she speaks Thai, she makes things very easy, but she's employed by the Forschungszentrum, and while the office is sponsored by NSTDA. So it's a great collaboration, and I look forward to continue this, and with this at the end. And I think there's a time for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Tobias, for your very interesting presentation, and I hope this project have provided the participants here today some ideas on how we might regionalize our efforts. Right. So I think I just want to ask you one question to start off with. Because we are talking about expanding the collaboration to ASEAN. So could you maybe give us some idea of the benefits of having the wider collaboration in the countries like in ASEAN? I know that, of course, there's very obvious benefits, but maybe could you give a solid example of some of the scientific discovery or scientific development that you could have for with the wider collaboration in ASEAN?
So so the Irrigation 4.0 project, for example, has colleagues from Myanmar there, computer scientists. As I said, it's an irrigation project, but all these findings and so on have to be implemented in the controller of the irrigation system, and they are programming this. So they bring in other expertise. So what I really like about these projects is that it's multidisciplinary. And sometimes I wanted to show, sometimes it's a collaboration of engineers, and sometimes it's that there's an expertise in NSTDA which is not there in Jülich or vice versa. And this is also the potential for Asian countries to join in, because of course we don't have all the expertise. Sometimes it could be even that there's a different crop which makes it interesting, or a different region, or you can expand, more generalize your findings you have in projects. And yeah, it's always great to work together, I think.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I had a feeling that Professor Chua might want to add something. No, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tobias. I think that's a great answer. Yes, and I think maybe there's no immediate questions for now. I probably want to move on then. Thank you again, Tobias, for the great presentation. Okay, so now let's move to the next presentation. Now for the next three presentations, which will focus on funding opportunities, each speaker will speak for about 10 minutes, and after all three speakers finish their presentation, it will be 10-minute Q&A. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we will try and answer them later in the program. So now let's move to the presentation. The first presentation will be by Veronika Jablonowski. So let me introduce her. So she's the project manager at Jülich Division Bioeconomy, and she will share some ideas on how BMBF can support expanded collaboration between ASEAN and Germany. So Dr. Veronika, are you ready? So the floor is yours.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Lily. I will try to share my screen.
Okay.
This is the one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it. But,
is it in full screen?
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
It's not full screen.
Okay. Dear ladies and gentlemen, good morning to my colleagues in Jülich and good afternoon to everybody in Thailand and the other ASEAN states. It's a great pleasure for me to take part in the seminar and give you some information about our national bioeconomy strategy and in more detail about the Bioeconomy International Program. First of all, let me start with a few words about me and my company. As you've already heard, my name is Veronika Jablonowski and I'm working at Project Management Jülich. Uli has already mentioned PTJ, which is a funding agency, and we are supporting, amongst others, the Federal Ministry of Education and Research in Germany in several administrative issues, like, for example, implementing calls for proposals. My division at PTJ is the one about bioeconomy, and in this division, I'm working in the Department of International Affairs. My personal responsibility is, next to others, the funding program Bioeconomy International. This program has already been mentioned by Uli and Tobias Wojciechowski, since some of the presented projects, like Cassava Store and also Piña Fiber, are funded or have been funded via Bioeconomy International. But starting with a political background. We all know that we are facing huge challenges all over the world, and we urgently need solutions in order to safeguard good living conditions for future generations. The bioeconomy is central to the most important issues of the 21st century. It encompasses the questions of how can we ensure food and resource security for the growing world population. On the same time, we have to protect the climate and the environment, including biodiversity. Fossil resources need to be substituted by renewable ones, and it is urgently necessary to combine ecology and economy to secure future prosperity. We think that the bioeconomy has the potential to provide answers and deliver solutions to these challenges. Thus, not surprisingly, the bioeconomy is gaining importance worldwide. More than 60 countries, as of 2020, have launched strategies to develop a bioeconomy strategy, and the trend is rising. As far as I know, in ASEAN states, it is Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia that have bioeconomy strategies. Germany was a pioneer in this development. In 2010 already, the German federal government was one of the first to publish a dedicated research strategy on the bioeconomy. 3 years later, the bioeconomy policy strategy followed, with which Germany set the political framework for the development of the bioeconomy in Germany. In order to further emphasize that the bioeconomy is a central pillar of the German sustainability policy, the federal German government has taken the next step in 2020. The National Bioeconomy Strategy bundles the previous activities in one strategy and thus provides a coherent basis for the further design and implementation of the bioeconomy in Germany. The new strategy sets the framework for the successful expansion of the bioeconomy over the next years. It addresses a broad spectrum of the sustainable development goals at different levels of society and in all economic sectors. The focus of research funding is on expanding biological knowledge and the use of biological processes and systems in order to tap renewable raw materials even better for industrial processes. In connection with digitization and cutting-edge technologies across all disciplines, we want to further exploit the potential for a sustainable bioeconomy, for example, through maintaining biogenic raw materials efficiently in a circular use. With this, we want to further expand Germany's leading position in the bioeconomy. For the bioeconomy to take effect, it must above all meet social requirements and needs. It is therefore important to have an open discussion and to involve all social groups. And, which is actually stressed by our new strategy, that not only national but also international collaborations are urgently needed to implement the bioeconomy. In order to be able to develop contributions from the bioeconomy for the implementation of the sustainability goals, we have to address complex issues that can only be achieved with holistic ways of thinking and working. For this reason, we have defined 6 modular components which cover the various aspects of the bioeconomy. These building blocks interlock and guarantee that we can implement our research goals flexibly. The expansion and use of biological knowledge and also the use of convergent technologies and interdisciplinary cooperation are important to advance the development and deepening of sustainable future technologies, besides other challenges. But what I would like to point out here in particular is the need for an exchange across national borders, because it enables us to live up to our global responsibility. We support the cooperation in the bioeconomy cross borders with dedicated funding formats, also with the ASEAN states, as I will explain to you by the end of my presentation. In order to achieve our goals in the bioeconomy, we have to address a broad spectrum of aspects. Most of these are cross-cutting and need common instruments to be addressed in an appropriate way. We have come a long way and already developed suitable instruments, and we will improve these measures under the new bioeconomy strategy. I would like to emphasize in particular that we will make the implementation of our new bioeconomy strategy participatory. To this aim, we have appointed a new bioeconomy council in December last year. This council will provide independent expertise to develop an implementation plan for the bioeconomy strategy, thereby involving all relevant actors and stakeholders in the bioeconomy in Germany. Furthermore, we will extend our cooperations on the national level with the German Länder government, on the EU level with our European partners, and certainly also with international actors. Beyond this, we will further enhance our efforts to create the basis for an open and constructive discussion about all bioeconomy issues. And finally, we will further develop a monitoring system for the bioeconomy to get the data and information we need to take the right political decisions in the sense of a sustainable development. But even before we had this current national bioeconomy strategy, so already under the former research strategy bioeconomy, the BMBF created a program in 2012 which had the aim to support the implementation of a bioeconomy in a global context. This is the funding instrument Bioeconomy International. The rationale was that many funding possibilities are available for European consortia, for instance through the European Framework Programme, whereas funding programs for international cooperations in the bioeconomy beyond Europe are rare, although they are highly mandatory. Therefore, this program can be used to fund German partners in international consortia all over the world. The overall concept of this initiative is quite simple. Eligible for funding are in general all R&D projects with subjects relevant for the broad area of bioeconomy. We are completely flexible regarding the composition of the consortia, which means that partners from universities, research organizations, and companies can join. A minimum consortium would consist of one German and one international partner. Theoretically, we do not define a maximum. But, which is really important, the projects have to be equally balanced in terms of workload, and the expertise of the partners should complement each other, which means that every partner has to contribute an essential part. Another important aspect is that the international partners have to bring their own funds via other calls for proposals or via their own expenses. An exception are bilateral modules. We started to have bilateral modules in our second call of Bioeconomy International with Vietnam and Russia. Later, more agreements with other countries were made and opportunities for co-funding were offered. The aim of these bilateral modules is to have a completely aligned process between both funders so that the proposals are submitted on both sides. The peer review evaluation process proceeds in parallel, and afterwards it is jointly decided which proposals will be funded from both sides. Until now, we only had such bilateral modules with Vietnam in ASEAN countries, but maybe other countries will follow in the future. So finally, I will show you some statistics. In total, we conducted in Bioeconomy International 8 calls since 2013 and received an impressive number of 671 proposals. 123 projects out of them have been selected for funding so far, with a funding amount of approximately 73 million euros. 16 out of these 123 projects are with Vietnamese partners, 6 with partners from Malaysia, 5 with partners from Thailand, and 3 projects with Indonesian partners. And with this final slide, I want to close my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you very much.
Oh. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Veronica, for your presentation. And I'm very delighted to hear that the BMBF is so supportive of increased research collaboration between Germany and ASEAN. So thank you again for that informative presentation. So now I would like to invite Mr. Gerrit Andreas Schreper, Program Officer, International Affairs, German Research Foundation, or we known as DFG, to give us an overview of how DFG might support research collaboration between Germany and ASEAN. So DFG is very well known to NSTDA. We are in the final stage of evaluating a joint research funding call between DFG and Thailand in the area of arbovirus. And DFG has been an excellent partner. So Mr. Gerrit, the floor is yours. We still don't hear you. No sounds yet. Yet.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes,
no? Okay.
yes, loud
Okay.
and clear. Okay, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for this kind introduction. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I would like to provide some information about DFG funding possibilities and possibilities for cooperation. I hope you can see the slide in full screen now. Yeah. Should be working. Oh, no.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So the DFG is the central independent research funding organization in Germany. We fund top-level research in all areas of science and the humanities through a variety of grant programs, prizes, and also funding infrastructure. In organizational terms, the DFG is an association under private law, and as such, it has administrative autonomy, and we are working according to the so-called bottom-up principle. Take some time to switch the slides. No, okay. Maybe to to have a short view on the differences between the German organizations dealing with mobility and research funding. The main task of the DFG is to select the best projects by researchers at universities and research institutions on a competitive basis, and to finance these projects. So we are also financing mobility by researchers, and we are funding people, but within a project, in a certain project which is running for short amount of time until 3 years for a research grant, or even longer in a coordinated program I will introduce in a second. So we are focusing on funding research projects. Within that, one of our core strategies is the promotion of a collaboration with researchers abroad. As said, we are supporting individuals and projects that have been judged outstanding in a competitive peer review process. And as you might know, the DFG receives the large majority of funds from the federal German government and the German states, which are also represented in all grant committees. But at the same time, the voting system and the peer review process and the regulations guarantee a science-driven decision. So everything is in competition, everything is in peer review, and the decision process is in the hands of scientists. The DFG offers support for almost every phase of a career in research. But in this context today, it is important to note that the so-called duty to cooperate applies to members of extra-university organizations like the Helmholtz Association, where members with permanent positions would have to cooperate with colleagues from a German university to be eligible to apply at the DFG. Scientists at extra-university institutions with a non-permanent contract can apply without that duty to cooperate. But as you can see here, we are offering funding possibilities from a very early stage of the career until the professorship and the whole variety of our funding programs. PhD students are not eligible at DFG for own proposals or own positions, but they can apply for positions in research training groups or in research grants. But from the PhD on, researchers could apply for almost any program at DFG. Maybe also in this context, more interesting is the perspective from an international cooperation point of view. We are supporting international cooperation in all funding programs. And additionally, there are some specific programs that aim to support international cooperation. For example, in the initiation phase, we have a program called Initiation of International Cooperation, which is more or less seed money for mobility, for exchange between Germany and the partner country. We are offering research days for up to 3 months in both directions and joint workshops in that program. The so-called scientific networks are more or less the same, but from several years. So up to 3 years, you can visit partners in Germany or abroad to intensify the idea of a joint project. Joint projects could be applied for in the research grants program. And with that, we are cooperating with international partner organizations or partners within joint calls, as just mentioned with Thailand, for example, and I will show you a slide with examples for that. In the coordinated projects like international research training groups or collaborative research centers, the DFG is offering funding for a big research consortium with different aspects, focusing on the International Research Training Group, for example, provide funding for the joint doctoral training programs between German universities and universities abroad. It's not changing. Okay. Support for international cooperation is based on the principle of mutual responsibility. The DFG is funding the program parts based in Germany, and the funding for the colleagues from countries abroad are funded by partner organizations like NSTDA or other funding organizations or the universities themselves, or from other sources. It doesn't really matter much for us where the co-funding is coming from, but we can only fund the German part. We have some agreements with partner organizations for co-funding in other countries. The universities fund the part in the foreign country. There's no quota for cooperation with certain countries, and there's no quota for proposals with international components. So yeah, as said before, everything is in competition, and the review process is having a look on the proposal, of course, and if it makes sense, if the international component has a real benefit for both sides, for the German side and the foreign part, it can be funded in almost any funding activities. Yeah, here you can see some examples for cooperations with ASEAN states or in the region of Asia. The whole region has steadily gained importance for researchers in Germany, and the DFG maintains trusting long-lasting relationships with a large number of partner organizations in the region. Yeah, our priority is the further intensification of our cooperation with researchers and funding organizations and partners in the region. And yeah, here you can see we are cooperating with NAFOSTAT in Vietnam for a long time now, NRCT and NSTDA in Thailand, for example. Also, Indonesia is a long partner of us. In this collaborative research center is one of our flagship funding within this within the region, as it is one of the big DFG funding possibilities. But yeah, as said before, normally researchers start with the initiation and mobility, going on to a joint project maybe, and in the long run, one of these coordinated projects could be a funding activity attractive for both sides. So yeah, in short, please contact us if you have any ideas for a joint project or joint activity between German researchers and researchers from Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia. It doesn't matter. We are offering the funding possibilities for any partner country and in any area of career. So thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Gerrit. I think that's very exciting news on the expanding collaboration in ASEAN by DFG. I think that's really something that we would have to look into in detail. Thank you again. So next, I would like to introduce Dr. Jenny Almaco from Euraccess ASEAN. She will introduce us to some of the European funding opportunities that can support research collaboration between Germany and ASEAN. So, Dr. Jenny, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lily. Give me a second just to make sure that this works.
Yep.
Can you see this? Is it
Start
clear?
with full screen. Yep, we can see it now.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I had really a wonderful time as well listening to this partnership between NSTDA and Jülich. And I'm really, really hoping that this will expand as you are planning to the ASEAN region. My role for the next minutes is just to tell you, other opportunities, other entry points that can be facilitated by European Union programs. So, but first of all, I'd like to introduce to you about Euraccess. If this is the first time that you've heard of us, we see ourselves as the gateway to the European research area, and I'll explain why. So Euraccess is an initiative by the European Union and 42 countries in the European research area. We provide information and support for researchers wishing to pursue their career research in Europe. So in this case, if you're planning to go to Germany, and I'm sure all of you inside the room are already because of the interesting presentations that have been given. And so we will provide you with support during this process. It's also a growing global network of researchers. So these are our services. First of all, if you go to the website, we have a daily listing of thousands of research jobs, fellowships, and funding offers in Europe, and many of them from Germany. Apart from that, every 2 weeks, we also send out a flash note, which contains a curated list of opportunities for ASEAN researchers to do their research or to do collaborative work in Europe. So if you haven't signed up already to our mailing list, to our database, do that so that you can have this also this information. The other thing, and this I think would be very particularly interesting for those of you inside the room, because right now we are talking about partners, right? We're talking about expanding the network. NSTDA and Jülich have already started this going, planted the seed, and we want this seed, of course, to flourish and really to expand. So what we have on the website is also a partnering tool where you can search for, thousands of individuals, your future research partner and business partner among the network members. So if you spend some time just to go inside and search, you might find the perfect fit for you. So especially for the project that has been presented between NSTDA and Jülich, this might be something that you might want to check out as well. We also have a hosting database. So if you are a European institution or an ASEAN institution and you would like to invite researchers inside your organizations, you can also look at that in the website as well. And right now there are also a lot of European institutions that are eager to host ASEAN researchers. Of course, when you are there, we have Euraccess centers that will provide information for you living and working in Europe. There are 600 Euraccess service centers, and the service that we offer for you is personalized, of course, is free of charge for mobile researchers, and there's a network of national experts as well that can help you facilitate further research collaboration. So just to give you also some of the things that we do all over, actually not just in Europe, but all over the world, because we have centers also in different parts of the world, again, promoting the European research area. So we have research capacity building seminars, like, or webinars, depending on whether we are outside of the pandemic or not, hopefully outside. So we also have hybrid webinars. So, how to publish your scientific paper. A few days ago, we just had a training on how to make a successful PhD application. And that actually came because there were several PhD evaluators that were frustrated with the kind of with the kind of PhD applications they got, not because it wasn't good. Actually, the submissions were very, very good, and a lot of them were from ASEAN, but somehow it doesn't. They don't really respond to the call that's been given. So it has a lot to do with just really guiding how to write the PhD proposal, especially since as a PhD is quite different in Europe and in Asia. In Asia, there are still a lot of taught courses in the PhD, whereas in Europe, it's more on becoming part of the team and really working. It's a job, right? So we provide these kinds of webinars, to prepare you for that as well. So just some photos. I'm going to skip through this. This is just an example. For example, if you go to Euraxis France, there are all these information about living there, taxation, all of these things. The same can be seen for Germany. There are just actually 2 of us in ASEAN, but we are very eager to provide you with the information that you need and the guidance that you need. My colleague, Dr. Susan Renzo-Vaso, is actually flying now to Germany for her break, but she is always online and I'm always online. I'm designated for Thailand and Vietnam, but we work on a regional level, so both of us will be available for you. Okay, so now to give you an overview of some of the programs. Of course, I cannot go into it in detail because of time constraints, but just to give you a teaser, just to give you perhaps an appreciation of what other opportunities are there that you can take advantage of. So Horizon Europe, of course, is this flagship program of the European Union on research and innovation. It's about 95.5 billion euros. And this is how it looks like. I cannot go through all of the pillars, but I want you to please focus your eyes on Pillar 1, on excellent science, and Pillar 2, which is global challenges and European industrial competitiveness. So in Pillar 2, for example, if you see all of those clusters, health, culture, creativity, and inclusive society, civil security for society, digital industry and space, climate, energy, and mobility, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment, and the Joint Research Center. So these actually have calls and there's a possibility for Thailand or ASEAN countries, ASEAN institutions, and researchers to become part of this pillar. So please take a look at that. I will send also links to that if you want to look at it a bit more, deeply and in a more relaxed space, because we still have like a lot of things to talk about, but it's really exciting, because what it happens in Pillar 2 in Horizon Europe is really it addresses the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's not just, addressing the problems of Europe, but really addressing the problems of the world, because as you know, and COVID has shown us that we are very much interconnected. Pillar 1 is on excellent science, and I will discuss a little bit about the second one, which is the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, as was because I think it would be interesting for the partnership. But there's also the European Research Council, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun when I say that NSTA has something special soon with regards to that. So I will leave it to Dr. Lily and her team to explain what that is at the right time. But there's a surprise there, I think, in the next months. And also there's also what you call as research infrastructures. But let me focus myself into the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. So here, the key features of this program is really on researchers' training, skills, and career development in all stages of the career. There are excellent research. It's really to promote excellent research in all domains. It's international, cross-sectoral, and interdisciplinary mobility. The great thing about it is it has an attractive working and employment conditions, and also, it looks at impact also because of excellent programs in institutions. And also there's a look at strong collaboration between industry and SMEs. So it's not just in the academic or the research sectors, but it also look at this, bridging the gaps between the science and industry, and science and business as well. So it's a really great program, and I'm one of the, I guess, the poster children of this program. I did my MSCA some years ago, and currently I'm the chair of the Marie Curie Alumni Association in Southeast Asia. And Dr. Lile and myself are also NCP. So this is a network of contact points that will guide you, to do your MSCA as well. So please contact us. So these are some of the MSCA actions. You have the Doctoral Networks. So here you have PhD. If you're looking for a PhD network, then you can, or doing a PhD in Europe, you can look at the PhDs that are offered, and there you can look at your access for that. There's also an offer on postdoctoral fellowships. I'll have some slides to explain what how to do this. And then staff exchanges as well, where, for example, an excellent researcher from ASEAN would go to Europe and vice versa. So this is really on support for research and innovation staff exchanges. There's COFAN as well, and MSCA in citizens. But let me focus on the doctoral fellowship. So of course, this is for those who already have their PhDs. It's a fascinating project because it's really on all fields of research. It really aims to bring out that creativity and innovative potential. Again, the focus is on international, intersectional, and interdisciplinary mobility, and also provides bridges and exposure to the non-academic sector. So there are optional features now with the postdoctoral fellowship of the MSCA. You can do a secondment, and you can also do a non-academic placement. So here you see the features. I'll send the PowerPoint, of course, so that you can look at that. What's the difference between the two and how long you can do that? So that you have more time to discuss this further with your friends, perhaps, to see if this is the right fit. So eligibility conditions with the MSCA, basically, you can be of any nationality. For the European fellowships, there are global fellowships, and these are those who are nationals or long-term residents of member states or Horizon Europe associated countries. So from for those from ASEAN, we will be doing, if you want to do it, you do the European fellowships. And for those who are Germans, you do the global fellowships. So just a little bit about that. And we get some questions about, what about me? I had some time where I had my child and I took a break. Will I not be eligible anymore? There's actually conditions for that allow you to provide you really this enabling environment despite the gap in your research experience. So for example, if you did a maternity leave or a paternity leave, you can actually calculate your research experiences accounting for this. So really the idea is to make sure that, even if you have other responsibilities or for example, you got sick, you can still get back into the game and still promote and push for that frontier research that you should be doing, for the benefit not only of your country, but for the whole of society as well. So just to give you a snapshot of what you will get as soon as you are recruited as a postdoc fellow, the living allowance is that 5,080, but there's also a mobility allowance. If you have a family, you also have a family allowance, and there are also some allowances that are provided depending on the case. And of course, the institution that you are a part of, they also get a contribution as well. So just to show you about the award criteria, of course, you need to be, the proposal has to be excellent. There has to be impact, and you have to show the quality and efficiency of the implementation. Okay, so now I will go to the staff exchanges. So this, I think, is really interesting because, nothing happens in a vacuum when people are mobile. So you can imagine, the exchange of knowledge and the creation of cultures of knowledge, because of this program and because of programs such as this. So if you do the MSCA staff exchanges, the outcome for the staff members, of course, is the transfer of skills and competencies, employability and career prospects, international exposure, networking and communication. And of course, ideas are converted into products, processes, and services. And for organizations, again, there's a transfer of knowledge. You have collaborative networks, international, intersectoral, and research and innovation capacity as well. So there are several activities that you can do when you do the staff exchange. For example, you can implement a joint research and innovation project, or you can host eligible staff members. You can do networking activities, workshops, conferences, or you can do new skills acquisition and career development perspectives. To give you a snapshot of what you will get, when you do a staff exchange, you get a top-up allowance of 2,300 euros. And then again, there are some allowances depending on your situation. And then the institution that hosts you will also get funds. It's important to note that participating organizations are expected to continue paying the salary of the staff during the secondment. So it doesn't stop. That's why it's called a top-up. Okay, so of course, the idea of MSA is really on mobility, and you have to commit, in principle, full time to the work that's there. However, with Europe, the working conditions are really, really good, and there is, they look at also gender equality and diversity. They make sure that they follow as well sustainability, open access, We just had a talk yesterday about open science, so that's very much followed as well and promoted too. So it's really a great opportunity to be part of this community. So the call is actually open now. It will be open until September. So please click on this link when you can for all the documents and guidelines, templates, and all of those things. And if you are looking for a host, please look at your Access website. There's also a website called the Enterprise Europe Networks. You can do a partner search also in different programs as well. So please take a look at that. Okay, so very quickly, Dr. Lily is now looking at me like I know that I'm over time, but just because we're talking about Germany, I just want to add two more things for you that you might want to think about. One is the International Climate Protection Fellowship of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. And this is for prospective leaders and postdocs with climate change expertise. It is from non-European developing and transition countries. So if you want to do a 12 to 24-month project in Germany, please search for the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. And again, another Alexander von Humboldt Foundation particulars is that you get a monthly fellowship, individual support, you get additional travel support for expenses and a German language course and all the other things. I will send this to you. The other Alexander von Humboldt Foundation is the Georg Foster Research Fellowship for Experienced Researchers. And this is, again, a grant to support highly qualified scientists and scholars from developing countries. So if you have completed your doctorate less than 12 years ago and you are considered an experienced researcher, you can do a research project of 6 to 18 months in cooperation with an academic post at a research institution in Germany. So again, this is the fellowship. It's worth 3,000, but then you have additional benefits. You can see the buttons there. There's a lot of them. So really, really a great opportunity as well. So please take a look at this if you wish to do more research and more collaborative work in Europe. And with that, I'll give you the floor, Dr. Lily. I'm sorry for going a little bit beyond the time.
No, I think that is great. It's very useful information. So thank you very much, Dr. Jenny, for that. And I'm also very pleased to hear about the range of funding opportunities that are available for researchers in ASEAN. So for those of you who are interested in any of the information that Jenny just presented, so I encourage you to please directly contact Jenny. I think she's already provided the contact. So because there's a lot of information there, I think it's worth discussing with her as well in detail, what kind of opportunity that actually suits you. So now it is time for the Q&A, and actually there is some of the questions already submitted in Q&A, and actually some of that has already been replied by the speaker. So I will go to some that hasn't. Okay, let me get this out. Okay, so I think that's maybe for both of Dr. Veronica as well as Berit. So it's something to do with the if the fund the project can be implemented. No, let us get it straight. Is it possible to have fund for project implementing in Myanmar? So maybe Veronica first.
Yes, of course. So our Bioeconomy International is open for every country worldwide beyond Europe, but the funding is always only for the German partners. So yeah, wherever it will be, it is in cooperation with partners worldwide, but only for the German partners. So
okay, so that's the joint funding, right? And how about you, Gerrit? DFG, are there any fund that actually can be implemented in Myanmar?
Yeah, in principle, yes, it's more or less the same. Yeah, we are offering funding possibilities for cooperation with Myanmar as well. So if a researcher in Germany is in contact with a partner in Myanmar in that case, and they are interested in a joint proposal or joint activity, the researcher in Germany can apply at DFG for funding and apply for funding for guest visits here, trips abroad, workshops, research projects. In that case, it's possible, from the initiation to a real research project, that'd be no problem. But the interest should be mutual, and the application would have to come from the researcher in Germany.
Sorry, the sounds like disappear. So did you say the last sentence? What is it?
The interest in cooperation should be mutual, of course, between the scientists in Germany and the scientists abroad. And with a look on the guidelines, the application would have to come from the researchers in Germany. They are eligible at DFG to apply.
Okay, so the interest has to be from both sides, of course, right? And the funding,
yeah, sure.
So the funding would it like cross border or it doesn't?
Normally, we are only funding the German part of the project. There are some exceptions for the so-called developing countries around the world, where we can fund staff and some instruments also in the partner country, but the main funding principle is that we are funding the German part, and the partner organization or partner university would have to fund the partners abroad.
Okay, so it's kind of a joint funding scheme. So could you actually elaborate a little bit more of which country you can give a kind of support in terms of cross-border funding or equipments? Can you give us some example, please? And maybe particularly in ASEAN?
Yeah, there's a list on our homepage. I just opened it up. It's where we have partner organizations who are funding the projects on a regular basis. We cannot fund costs in the partner country, as we are expecting that from the partner organization. But it depends a lot on the country. I will have to find the list.
Okay.
Okay, I've got it. In Asia, we could fund staff and instruments or some project costs, for example, in Myanmar, in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, and maybe Vietnam, but it depends a lot on the partner organizations if they are able to co-fund the project.
Okay, great.
We have a list on our homepage, or you can also contact me, of course, and I will give you the details on that. Yeah,
Okay.
it depends a bit on the partner country and the possibilities.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So for those of you who are interested, please follow the DFG webpage and look for more detail. And if you are interested, to discuss more, Mr. Gerrit will be, welcoming your email as well. So I think another question for Mr. Gerrit, it goes like, is there any bioeconomy related projects between Germany and Malaysia under EURASES? Oh, and he's already answered. Sorry, I didn't see that. Okay. So no.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not aware of a call or any current activity in that, but yeah, if interest is there, the researcher in Germany could apply for that. But yeah, please.
Yeah, Jenny probably knows something. Please, Jenny.
Yeah, I think it's important to note as well that EURASES is not a funding agency, so we facilitate, and we collaborate. We see ourselves as knowledge brokers or brokers in general between the European research area and and the areas that we work in. So we provide you with the information. We make sure that you collaborate. We have, of course, we try to capacitate you. But the funding is, of course, with DFG and the European Union, European Commission.
That is great. Okay, that's very clear. Thank you, Jenny. So I don't see any more questions in the chat box. So I think maybe before I go to the panel discussion, would there be any kind of last words from the speaker in the first panel, the first session, kind of? Yes, Jenny?
Perhaps it's an invitation, Dr. Lily, to because listening to this incredible partnership between NASTA and Jülich, I wonder if you would be interested also in doing a Meet My Lab. I think you've seen the Meet My Lab that we've done. It's a platform, to showcase, these kinds of collaborations. I think, it would be great, perhaps, if it is of interest, to share this in another format, where we can see the laboratory, we can see the excellent collaboration and the work that you're doing together. It's just an idea. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think that certainly be very useful for introducing the lab in ASEAN, and it will be, useful for visibility of the lab in ASEAN as well. And especially, you want to collaborate with other partners in other parts of the world, So I think that certainly be useful. So Jenny, could you maybe give a detail of the lab should contact you basically, right? And you will guide to that. Okay.
Thank you.
And I see Professor Schur would like to say something, please.
Yeah, probably just a general comment.
Please.
I think what we did just now is we presented a lot of opportunities, but usually there are many more than what we can actually present. So my call for people would be, if you have an idea, contact people and try to find something, because there's always something around. And in this kind of presentation, what kind of things we have available, we always can only show a certain bouquet of stuff which we can have, but there are many more. So try to contact people and we try to make things possible. I think that's a message which I would like to bring in again.
Yes, I totally agree. There are much more than what we just present today, especially Tobias. He can only present 20 minutes and that's too little time for him. I'm sure he has much more to present. So how about other speakers? You will, okay? Spernica, any last word? Okay, great. So thank you very much again, all the speakers for the first session. That's your knowledge and everything that you provide and share with us today is really useful. And I'm sure that will kind of sparkle something in terms of collaboration between Germany and ASEAN. And, we will keep an eye on that, and hopefully we could be a part of that as well. So thank you again. And, so if you are available, please stick around for the panel session later, like now, actually. Okay, so let's move to the next session. I'm not sure if my moderator of next session is here. Okay, not yet. So actually the moderator will be Dr. Voracit, but she's now in another meeting. So I will probably introduce some of the panel first for now. And yes, okay, so I will introduce the panelists. So, okay, so now before I introduce the moderator, I will go to the panelists. And yes, so the first one is, of course, Professor Ulrich Schurer. Long time no see. So I already say that he is the director of IBT2, but just to remind you, he is and of the plant science Forschungszentrum Jülich. The second one would be Tobias. Hi, Tobias. How are you? Okay. And the next one would be Dr. Serena Mokhtar. Hello, Serena.
Hello.
She's the Assistant Director, Head Science and Technology Division, ASEAN Secretariat. Very nice to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And the next one would be Mr. Gerrit, Andreas Schwepper. He is already a speaker in the session, so hello again. And the next one would be Associate Professor Dr. Chai Lei Ching, Chair, Young Scientists Network Academy of Science, Malaysia. And she's also the head of Research Service Center, University of Malaysia. Hello.
Hi,
Nice to
thanks
meet
for
you.
having me here.
Oh, okay. So now, very nice to have you here, Dr. Voracit.
Hi.
So I would like to introduce my moderator for today. So she's now in time for the panel session. So Dr. Voracit Setapan, she's a Deputy Director of Program Management Unit of Human Resources and Institutional Development, which is the main funding agency of Thailand for the frontier science and capacity building. So that is called also PMUB. So Dr. Voracit, if you're ready, thank you for joining us. So over to you. Hello, Dr. Voracit. She's not in Bangkok, she's in Chiang Mai. Okay, so maybe we'll wait for her for a bit. And hopefully she will get her very soon. Okay. But meanwhile,
Oh, can you?
Yes, we can hear you now, Dr. Voracit. The signal was not so great. Maybe you cannot have your camera on.
And I'm so the signal. Okay. All right. Okay. I will try to make this right. Okay. Okay. I'll turn my off right now. So, well, the situation, people work in harder more than one. I was just on an on-site meeting, and now I'm coming to the online meeting. So basically, something like that. All right. So, everybody, can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Lily, for inviting me to be part of this discussion. So the topic of our discussion would be how to strengthen the research collaboration between German and ASEAN in supporting biocircular and green economy. And then for this panel discussion, I think we're going to have a lot of perspective from the researcher themselves, perspective from the agency that helps support the collaboration, perspective from the funding agency like DFG, and then perspective from this researcher or scientist themselves like Dr. Chai, which is honored to call her my friend because we're ASEAN, we're also in the Young Scientists Network together. So for me, I'd like to put 3 hats on for myself in the form of the hat for moderator. That's the first one. A hat for, I just got this position to be PMU, which is program management. It's a funding agency. And my role is to support global partnership. How can we support scientists, which is Thai scientists, and also I'm in charge of ASEAN as well for Thailand. So how can we support ASEAN scientists to go global in the sense of having research connection and networking with our international partners? So, and like that too. So my third hat is as the researcher, because I have 20%, which I have to do research as well. So there is a lot to talk about, a lot to think about, because even though we're in the pandemic era, but right now the countries is starting to open up. I just traveled to Germany. I went to Bonn. Yeah, for the UN FCCC event. It's a subsidiary body meeting and to prepare for COP27 in Egypt. So as I said, the country is opening up, and I think we have a lot to talk about to see in the world of hybrid, on-site, limited travel, or weekend travel. How can we work together to improve or enhance the collaboration between Germany and ASEAN? But the topic, well, since we're under BCG, and the topic, which is great, is BCG economy. And I really believe the BCG economy can help support and also focus with that, be in line with the SDG development goal, and also support the goal for Paris agreement in that, the reduction of CO2 and moving forward towards sustainability as well. All right. Okay, so the format of this panel discussion, in the sense of there is no format, in the sense of we'll give you maybe a key question, that a topic of discussion, and then maybe we'll build upon that. And so I'll start off with the questions, and then anyone can chime in first, or if there's no one chiming in, I'll be like pointing to you to chime in. We heard a little bit about the key for success in collaboration. We understand that ASEAN and Germany, we're so far apart from each other. 10-hour by flight, 5-hour differences from Thailand, okay, in our time. And then how can we collaborate together? What is the ingredient for success in the collaboration? Okay, so Dr. Urit has talked about we have to have drive by people. We have to have a friendship. Okay, so that's one of the key ingredient is friendship as well. So, but what are the other ingredients? And that can create successful collaboration, and that can help enable, or what other ingredient to help enable the increase in success? Okay. Anyone would like to start or share? Otherwise, I'm going to ask Chai first.
Oh, okay,
yes.
fine.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry, Zarina. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Let me just.
Yeah. So, as you're looking at ASEAN overall, okay,
So
for Secretariat.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
So let me just try to bring the bigger perspective of this international collaboration for ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We set ourselves to accelerate economic growth, social progression, and cultural development for more than 50 years now. Since ASEAN was established in 1967, we've been relying very heavily on the international collaboration, not just among 10 ASEAN member states, but also beyond the 10 ASEAN member states, more precisely with our dialogue partners, the development partners, external partners, and international organizations. So I would say that be it bilaterally or multilaterally, a successful international collaboration is an effective collaboration that care not just about what need to be exchanged or what need to be collaborated on, but also taking into consideration the element of trust, respect, and understanding. And equally important, we need to also maintain the effective international collaboration through forward thinking and agility in terms of decision making. So going back to your question, I would say that the elements or ingredients for successful international collaboration would be number one, to be able to build a strong foundation for collaboration. We need to be able to first address the big why in the first place we are collaborating. Number two, to be able to set clear, common or shared goals. Collaborators need to be on the same page in setting out clear, shared and common goals. We need to be clear about the output and the outcome of the collaboration would yield. By doing so, we could identify and eventually manage expectation from both sides. If it's a multilateral, then it's expectation from all the collaborators' sides. And finally, I think it is also important for us to ensure continuous trust and understanding. There is a need to remain flexible and being prepared ahead to address differences in understanding, in values and beliefs. We need to be very inclusive and outward looking. So for ASEAN-Germany collaboration, I think for us, we always strive towards a collaboration that yield mutual benefits, not just one-sided. That being said, continuous and trust and also understanding is very key. So I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Who raised their hand first? I see Chai or maybe okay, all right. I'll thank you. Well, you can do digital or you can do like the physical, right? Can I have ladies first and then we'll do
sure.
Chai and then Tobias. Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Tobias. So I would just like to echo, like, what Zarina has said just now. For collaboration, like, you really need that, like, to have a shared value, like, the shared goal, like, to really everyone understand, like, to really know why. So over here, like, as I'm also managing, like, research in my university and as the chair of Young Scientist Network. So we have been pushing, like, a lot for international collaboration, particularly, like, with ASEAN Young Scientist Network being put up. So that is actually one of the main aim is actually to encourage and promote collaboration, research collaboration and cooperation. But oftentimes, like, we see, like, when a new research grant, like, being put up, like, particularly recently, we have just, like, the EU-ASEAN GFS, like, that is ongoing. We have seen, like, a lot of people, because one of the criteria is, like, you need to collaborate with EU, so one of the European country. And a lot of researchers only start looking right now. So is there anyone, like, I could collaborate with? But this type of collaboration, oftentimes, like, it doesn't work because it doesn't build on trust, like, it doesn't build on probably very much, like, a shared goal. So at the end of the day, so I don't think, like, that this type of project would actually go on. So a lot of research collaboration need to start, like, by having probably, like, build up the friendship, really get to know each other, how different cultures work, like, how we work together. Probably not even, like, the culture in terms of different countries, but, like, the different style of working and expectation, like, between different researchers, different labs. So all of these need to actually, like, being spelled out and really understand it before a healthy collaboration would actually work. So I think, like, in ASEAN or, like, in a lot of countries, having a good ecosystem that actually encourage, promote, and support international collaboration is very important. So it's not just the fact of, like, having the will that we want to collaborate, but a systems, like, being put in place and being supported. So it's actually, like, very important. So that come in, like, from the part of, like, I think, like, Prof. Uli has mentioned, like, the political, the politic part, like, how to create that ecosystems that enable multilateral, like, collaboration to take place. So I think NSTDA, like, and I mean, has shown, like, very good model how these type of collaboration, two-ways communication, like, that actually happen rather than, like, collectively, like, come from just researchers bottom-up approach. So you need also, like, a top-down approach. I think another thing that I would like to bring up is, like, for a lot of ASEAN researchers, particularly, like, those probably who have not had any opportunity to venture out or to go out from their country or their universities, like, for them to actually gain the confidence, like, to collaborate and to reach out is something that is very important to look at. To have knowledge and skills, like, how to do collaboration, how to work together, how to build a team that could work on a project. So all of these require skills. So, but not just a will. So I think that part, like, on education part, to really create that environment, it's actually very important in terms of just among the researchers themselves. So, I mean, that's what, like, I want to bring out in terms of ecosystems over here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chai. Let's go to Tobias, please.
Okay, thank you. I agree with this. Of course, you need the political frame and you need the initial projects. As I mentioned in the beginning, mobility schemes improved very nicely for us to build this. But what I appreciate most now with our collaboration with NSTDA is that there's time. And I mean by time, there's time to develop project ideas over a long time. We have the possibility now through the joint lab and so on to really develop ideas much longer than just responding to a call. I agree this is essential when you start building a relationship, because that's the only way you can start building this. But I think at the end you really have to go for this goal to create time for the researchers to then develop their ideas, their collaboration, get to know each other. And that's what I appreciate a lot in the current collaboration.
Sai, we can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, Tobias focus on the time. I haven't thought about that actually. The time does help to build relationship, right? Would be stronger over time. And then time will help to build the mutual benefit as well, to discover the mutual benefit and create the ecosystem to drive on. Okay, so thank you very much. Professor Sher, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. Many things have been said before, and I can just support that. Also, just linking back to what Tobias just said, I showed this timeline of 10 years. These 10 years are very important, and there's a development in there, and the stability, which I tried to show in my presentation, that this is a kind of development over time. I think that's extremely important because it generates trust and it generates structures. Let me just, but let me just into this question go in from a little bit of different angle. Obviously, the question behind that is, what do we really want to achieve with international collaboration of scientists? Because that's what is the target? Right? And I see there at least four different targets which I would put up there. One is obviously that there is matching science. There is a collaboration between scientists because they have similar topics or topics which they like to work together. I think this is the basis, and this is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, collaboration would not work. That's one point. But there are at least, say, 2 or 3 more other dimensions which international collaboration has. One is something which we call science diplomacy, and especially in these times which we have today, I think science diplomacy is extremely important. We have a lot of tensions on this globe. There's a lot of opportunities at the same time, and we have global perspectives and global challenges which we have to solve. climate change will not be solved in Germany or in Thailand or in single Asian countries. We have to do it all together. And I think this kind of science diplomacy aspects is very important. And we should really work for a multilaterality in science cooperation globally, because science is an extremely good diplomat in doing that. So that's the second point. The third point is, if we talk about sustainability, we also talk about impact. It's not enough to just do research. It's not enough to just say climate will change. We also need to work on it that something happens. And this is also something which you can see from our collaboration with NSTDA. Thus, we always try to link this into practical application, into receiving impact. This is very rewarding for scientists, at least for those parts which are really talking about sustainability implementation. I think this part is extremely important. And this is sustainability in the context of economy, so include economy partners, industry partners, farmers, whatever in our context, and also society, because this is also a very important part of sustainability. And the fourth dimension why we should do international collaboration between sciences is an educational dialogue. And I'm by intent say educational dialogue. We should not only ask for ASEAN students coming over to Germany, we also should try to bring more German students, European students to Asia in order to be able to really have a dialogue and an interaction there, and not a kind of one-directional perspective. At the moment, I'm not sure, I don't have numbers on that, but I guess there would be more people from Asia coming over to Germany than Germans going to Asia. That's my guess, but I'm not sure. I hope that someone has numbers on that, but I think this bidirectional course is very important. On the one hand, for the science education, on the other hand, again, for cultural capacity and the capacity to do intercultural competence. And I think that's very important, and science has a very good, important role to play there to do this kind of interaction towards a future which is more sustainable in all different dimensions.
Can I build upon that a little bit? When we want to encourage German students or German researchers to come to Thailand, what would they benefit? When the people who come to Thailand, what do they feel they will benefit if they come to Thailand? May I ask the German side? Yeah.
Tobias, do you want to start?
Yeah, because I know it's to increase education dialogue to have a different perspective, but what do they benefit? Yeah, can I ask?
You're muted. Tobias, you're muted.
After 2 years, and I still make these mistakes. From my perspective, I think how I see Thai scientists, the culture is different, which makes it already interesting. So I would describe Thai scientists as working very meticulous and not releasing anything till they think it's perfect. But it's also we have, I think my experience is that there's much more drive to have some impact, as Professor Shaw already mentioned, and help rural communities, or to have a product, or help people and so on. And this is very rewarding. It's a different kind of science, I would say, than what I normally experience, where manuscript driven also is important. Of course, it's not science if you don't share it, but it's there is a focus also on other things. That's what I want to say. And it takes time. It takes time to build trust with Thai researchers, I think. Much longer than I expected. As also, from my perspective, it requires what is not really given in a German system, that you have private relationship, personal relationships with the researchers as well. I realize that Thai researchers spend most of their day at work, commute very long time, so there's not outside life very much. But this has implications, so that you have that they interact on a much more personal level than we Germans do. Germans think very much in there's work and there's my other life, and they don't bring it together very often. There's very much a mindset to separate these two. And yeah, so there I had to learn that I have to invest some of my personal time in order to build proper science relationships.
Now I question, is it a good thing to mix everything together instead of separate? Maybe in some aspect, right? Well, there's benefit and or challenges in each way. Since I totally feel that like our culture is so different, like in even time management or punctuality or those kind of thing, and traffic. So it's so different, and it's kind of encouraging when you see success in bridging like ASEAN or on German together. Yes, Professor Scher.
Yeah, I'll just go back a little bit into how we also developed that whole collaboration. So if you look at, so Tobias was one of these champions, or is still the champion who is running that, and it took us actually quite a while and quite some effort to also convince other people in the institute to see the benefit of joining the collaboration. And I think a very important thing which one has to generate is to generate the curiosity of what could be in there for myself. This is something where you can catch scientists if they're getting curious in things. And then we had quite a number of webinars of showing what is there, and suddenly they're generating links, people coming over and then coming into the institute and doing some interactions, and then they suddenly people see there is something in for me, because there I think that's again, sorry, coming back to time again, this is something which you need in order to build trust and longer term perspective. This is what I mentioned before with stamina. So this is, you need to maintain effort over time in order to make things happen.
Awesome. Okay, Zarina, ASEAN perspective, please.
Thank you. So I would just like to balance out the response because we heard from the German side. So from the ASEAN perspective, I think one of the things that we could leverage on, one of the things that German could tap into this collaboration is by tapping into the talent and the vibrant young population that we have in ASEAN. For ASEAN, we have 10 ASEAN member states. I think only one member state is having the aging population issue. Not quite sure whether it's a concern in the EU, but for us, we are really looking into empowering our young population. We have right now about more than 200 million youth in ASEAN. They are very vibrant and they are very eager to drive the new economy. So this would be something that we usually look into for mutual benefits in terms of international collaboration, especially with the EU and Germany. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can I ask Garrett, please, on behalf of the funding agency side, what does the funding agency or Germany see the benefit in joining together when you do funding? Actually, PMUB, we also have co-funding, joint funding with DFG as well. So I'm just into that. And when we see the benefit, because like DFG funding the German side, for PMUB, like we fund the Thai side, kind of joint on research. So on behalf of DFG, what is the main benefit that you can see out of the research collaboration and other activities?
Yeah, we see the benefit in bringing together researchers who are interested in the research of the partner side and are more or less dependent on a joint cooperation to bring the project forward or to conduct the research at all. So we are very happy to provide funding if the project is reviewed excellent. But yeah, as said before, as a bottom-up organization, we are not in the place to promote specific collaboration, that's more the job of the ministry here or other organizations. But if the researchers of both countries identify a mutual benefit for their research, we are very happy to provide funding. And of course we see the benefit for researchers in Germany to go to other countries where maybe the infrastructure is or the ecological framework conditions to conduct their research, and if the partner side benefits as well, it's very much to our delight, if you say so.
Great. Okay, so thank you very much. So we, like all of us, published there are there are a few of the key success factor that has to be to create maybe curiosity, to develop friendship, and using time over time in order to see how collaborate together. So with that, there's a lot of success stories, but how can we make it more in the form of the masses? What are the mechanisms that need to help in strengthen this? It seems like this is more like a bottom-up approach. Is there more of a creating the ecosystem? What can be the role of, in the sense of in the region, regional role, like ASEAN and EU role, or maybe the national role, like a bilateral role together, or institutional role, or agency role level, like university to university or researcher to researcher. I think like these, like matching, there would be different type of mechanism that needed. This is it's a very wide key question. If you have like best practices or anything you want to share or ideas you want to give as a researcher, maybe Chai, as the researcher, how do you want to give any recommendation to like ASEAN level or EU level, or how do we do that because you are the chair of the Young Scientist Network? How may we develop our young scientists, since we have a lot of population of young scientists, to help connect with that in the form of regional role, like, because you can see, and then otherwise, and other than that, maybe like all our speakers can speak on from their experience or what they wish to have in a different type of role.
Yeah,
How
if
about,
I could,
yeah.
if I could just chip in a little bit over here, from the perspective of young scientists, that we have under ASEAN Young Scientist Network, one of the main aim, or goal that we wish to have is is to really have a strong network, that we could actually grow together, work together, and everyone, because we know that for all the 10 member states, everyone have some probably stand higher, have better opportunity, and have better reach out, and compare to certain researchers in some the other member state, they may lack this type of opportunity to actually reach out and to collaborate. So hopefully with the ASEAN Young Scientist Network, so we would be able to provide this equal platform that all would be able to reach out to more resources, I would say over here. So one of the programs of flagship, that we have put up over here is the ASEAN Emerging Researchers Conference that happen every year. So it should actually rotate from one member state to another, that we do every year, that we gather all the emerging researchers together at one platform to have dialogues, to really get to know, because we talk about have the matching interest, to build the trust, to get to know each other. So you need to have this platform that all the mass of the emerging researchers could come together. So we have done this for 3 years. Of course, during the pandemic, we could only do it online. But like, we really find that a physical conference, like, will be something good. To bring in, like, the international partner, like, probably would be something that would actually benefit all the emerging researchers, like, over here, as like, we actually promote a more, how to say, easygoing type of, like, environment during, like, the conference, so that it's not something like, you just come here, present and go back, but like, you really come here to network, to get to know each other and to build probably potential, like, collaboration. And for international partner, like, that will be something good, that they would be able to get to know more emerging researchers who are really very passionate to move on and to grow, but perhaps, like, or probably lack the opportunity over here. And other than that, like, we have also developed our ASEAN OCP, the Open Collaborative Platform, which is an online platform that we ask, like, all the emerging researchers, young researchers, like, to register themselves in this platform to create a database, so that, like, even among our ASEAN member state, like, researchers, like, if you want to collaborate with another country, whoever researchers you are looking for, so you could go to the database and search for the researchers, like, that perhaps you could reach out to. So other than that, like, we have the science leadership programs. So science leadership programs, like, we aim to actually provide our young researchers, like, with skills, including how to pitch science, how to collaborate, how to work together, how to look for funding, and a lot more. So all of these are the different flagship programs, like, we put up, hopefully, like, would actually create these ecosystems from not just bottom up, but we also get, like, ASEAN and a lot of, like, decision makers, like, to be part of it, so that we could influence and we could actually, like, share our opinions and findings and so on and so forth. So this is something, like, that we are doing, and hopefully, like, it will actually grow.
Great. Thank you, Thai. All right. Professor Shore, please.
Sorry. Probably directly responding to that. So if I try to compare the Asian Young Scientist Network with what we have in Europe, we don't have something which is exactly the same, where it's young scientists across all disciplines. That's how I understand the Young Scientist Network in Asia, in ASEAN. In Europe, we often have young scientist networks within certain disciplines, within certain communities. And that might be a thing which we should probably discuss a little bit in the context of how these different structures could go together. How to identify. So if I find, so I'm also, I have been vice president of the European Plant Science Organization. So we are also talking a European network of young scientists, which we can also bring together, but they would most likely be interested in meeting young plant scientists in Asia. So how can we match that? Is there a possibility there? And I think the same is with physics, the same is with medicine. There's always in Europe, this is kind of disciplinary blob, which is organizing their youngsters and their young scientists, and not the European or even in Germany. I would not know of one big organization which covers all the young scientists. Is there any kind of possibility to match that?
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of landscape project, huh?
That's right. I think we can do that, Sai.
Yeah, right.
Together, yes.
Got a new project right there.
That's right. Yes.
We can support that, hopefully.
Yay! Oh,
very happy to hear that, Serena.
Yeah, because I believe that not only we have so the ASEAN YSN, the young scientists, we bring in all discipline, right? And then we also have like national academies for each nation. They have their own young scientists together. They have like Global Young Academy, where like everybody come together. So there's so many platforms and so many societies in so many countries. And how can we encourage like matching together as well as form like interdisciplinary because this is the new wave, new trend. As not new trend. A lot of the project or research projects somewhat interdisciplinary as well, and trying to complement each other. Yeah, and I think that's a challenge or a research project maybe to map for a starting point. Yeah, I think that's good.
Definitely, I think that
Okay.
would be very worth doing because, and just what you described, so we often have the problem in Europe that we really, if we go about interdisciplinary, we have still these disciplinary boundaries, which are probably less effective in Asia because you're coming from a different direction. But this could also be a kind of possibility and opportunity to bring things together. So we do a lot of interdisciplinary research, as Tobias has shown before, but it's always a challenge to bring people beyond that career-defining discipline approach. And I think that's a thing which we should definitely, I think there could be a lot of very interesting discussions and opportunities to make things happen.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I would just like to add on a little bit. It's always good to target and start from the young scientists because they are going to grow into a leaders in the future. So if you want things to change, so then change the young people.
And we have time. Sorry, I just want to focus on that. I hope so. We still have time and energy, yeah, to travel between each other as well. No, but we still have to lesson learn from the senior scientists as well. So I think we, not only the young scientists can help be the bridge. I think we're more flexible, or we can bridge together between interdisciplinary. I think that's kind of way, because we have to be inclusive, we have to be interdisciplinary, and we need to work together. So yeah. All right. Well, any other ideas on mechanisms on how to promote collaborations together?
Maybe I can
in
add
various
into that.
levels? Yes, Serena.
Okay, so it's interesting to learn about what the young scientist sector is doing, and we have interest from the German side to have like equivalent and matching program for this one. Well, this is definitely something that ASEAN would like to support, the talent mobility, something that would address the issue of bridging the science between policy and also a practice. So coming back to a question about the mechanism needed to strengthen collaboration based on the regional bloc perspective and experience, I think the most important thing is the continuous engagement through dialogue and science diplomacy. I think we've discussed about science diplomacy. So I would say that establishing collaboration or partnership is just a starting point for international collaboration, and efficient and effective international collaboration, just like any relationship, will only remain strong if it is continuously looked after and nourished. So we need to have engagement through dialogues and science diplomacy. It is very imperative. Secondly, we also discussed about top-down, bottom-up. For us as a regional bloc, we need a top-down declaration and also bottom-up commitment, which means to say that we need a very bold declaration from the leadership to strengthen collaboration. And on the flip side, we also need a commitment from the stakeholders to forge this partnership enabled by the collaborative programs and projects. So declaration, especially by a regional bloc, can be very, very strong, enough to push for international collaboration. And finally, I think it would be imperative to also focus on the implementable programs that yield mutual benefits. For example, talent mobility, technology transfer, people-to-people connectivity, as we discussed earlier, establishment of networks and expert groups. So I think the time has really come for us to focus on projects that really matters, that will address a common concern, both ASEAN and Germany or the EU. One way of doing it is tying everything up back to our commitment, the bigger commitment to in mitigating and adapting to climate change or achieving sustainable development goals. The point that I'm trying to come to here is that in strengthening collaboration, we need to be able to tie all these young scientist network or similar initiative to a bigger shared goals, sustainable development goals or Paris Agreement. So I think we had a very good discussion. Maybe this is a flashpoint for us to, start with more collaborations in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. I do agree on that, and I think that joint forces or joint collaboration can help achieve, I think, our grand challenges in the form of regional grand challenges with all, like, not only the young scientists and all combined forces. And then for the ASEAN talent mobility, I just want to say I need to talk with you a little bit, because I'm also like helping toward the ASEAN talent mobility for us, not only mobilize among ASEAN ourselves, because sometimes we don't understand each other as much, even though our countries close together. We do have similarities and also differences as well. So ASEAN can travel between each other, as well as ASEAN plus Germany, ASEAN plus various. So and then they can be like programs like that going on. There are a lot of mobility program for bilateral program as well for country to country. But if we can create a more of a multi-country and multi-level discipline, how do we train or use that as a platform to learn about each other and finding or matching with each other? I think that would be another interesting project to start. And by using, as you said, by using mutual benefit or mutual goal, mix them some topic in mutual goal and see how the mobility would work between like ASEAN mobility and ASEAN plus Germany. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Uri?
Probably adding, because we are talking about mechanisms which would support things. So one thing which I would or two things which I would like to mention there. One, obviously exactly what we do at the moment, using an existing network, which is a best practice example, and builds a kind of backbone to which other things can build on, is an example which you can also work. So if Tobias can help me, how many other ASEAN countries have been somehow interlinked? So we have been with Myanmar, we have been in Vietnam, we have been in Malaysia, we have been in Indonesia. So there are many other things around which somehow build around this kind of backbone of the interaction between NSTDA and Jülich at that specific case, where we also are happy to share and to build these links. Also what we said before. So if there are new ideas, contact us and we try to make things work. The second thing, and I think someone mentioned that before, I'm not sure who in the presentation, from a European perspective, one thing which really works extremely well is the Marie Curie fellowships. And we also had and this is I think also a best practice example of collaboration between different countries, in this case within Europe, mostly within Europe, but there's also going outside of Europe. But this is a mechanism which for decades has proven to be really effective in bringing people together. And it might be a thing, I'm not sure if something similar exists in the ASEAN background, but that might be a thing to also have a look at, because that's an extremely effective thing, where I know for some years ago there was a threat that this would be reduced or actually would go out. And there was a very strong roar from the scientific community, don't do that, because this is a very efficient program and we would like to keep that, and it's continuing. So if you look at that, I think it's an extremely good example also how multilateral interaction works.
Great, thank you very much. Oh, all right. I think this is a very productive conversation. Not only we look at the success factors, we also map out a few projects that we're pitching to the funding agencies and to the regional. So I hope that Zarina take to practice, and we as the stakeholder and ASEAN Young Scientists, we also commit that we will help. Right, Chai? We will help. And for DFG, if you're interested in the different type of project, like transfer or exchanges or different, you can also set up like the more of a topic or program for research collaboration, and maybe that's a fundamental or starting point of it as well. Okay. In the interest of time, can I ask the organizer how much time do we have? Do we have until 5 p.m. Thailand time?
Yes, we have until 5 p.m. Thailand time.
Thailand time, so we have 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have 7 minutes, and I would like to ask each speaker to give your parting encouragement or your word of wisdom. How do we promote the research network between ASEAN and Germany, or your final, the thing that you haven't said before, or anything you can think of as parting word or word of encouragement? How do we promote to the research network and focusing on BCG, Biocircular Green Economy, to help support the SDG? Okay, it's very wide of there. So based on this, I'll ask each speaker, who would like to go first? The person who go first, the second person can't say the same thing, okay? Last parting words. I know, the last person, you have a lot of, got it, Garrett, okay.
I just wanted to
Reader.
no, I just wanted to say that despite the challenges of the pandemic and the travel restrictions and all that, and the loss of personal contact, the benefits in such a virtual meeting has to be acknowledged as well. So in order to promote bilateral cooperation, we could and should use these formats on a regular basis, and try to use these means to have a regular contact, or to broaden the news on cooperation possibilities. And I think despite all the challenges, that could be a good outcome in the end.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We have to continue to force our talk, having dialogue and talk about it, and then to continue the collaboration. Okay, for our second speaker, who would like to raise your hand? Okay, Serena, please.
Thank you. My parting words. So how to promote a research network between ASEAN and Germany. So I think the most important thing is to really identify the potential entry points and leverage on the existing platform. Number one, we need to leverage on the formal status of international relationship. We discuss about, friendship, relationship. So I'd just like to share that together with Chile, France, Italy, Germany is ASEAN development partner since 2016. ASEAN and Germany already have strong footing for a friendly relation, mutually beneficial dialogue, cooperation, and partnership. And under the EU umbrella, EU is an ASEAN dialogue partner since the 1977. We discussed about time. Indeed, through time, this collaboration get even stronger through time. Secondly, I think we also need to leverage on the existing formal platform, particularly the ASEAN-Germany Development Committee. We do have this AGDPC, because Germany is ASEAN development partner. There are already diverse portfolio of joint projects and programs being discussed annually in a meeting between 10 ASEAN member states, ASEAN Secretariat, and German ambassador. So in this meeting, we usually identify the potential area of our collaboration, and we also identify what would be our next agenda for the year. So I think this platform is the perfect platform that could help us reinforce each other's work. And finally, I think because we already identified these practical cooperation areas, we need to just focus on these some areas. I think right now we have more than 10, around 13 areas on what we call as the practical cooperation areas with both ASEAN and Germany is now focusing on. I think the practical areas is available online, and some of the areas are on energy security, of course, education, innovation technology, environment, and climate change. So again, I would say that to promote research collaboration between ASEAN and Germany, we do not have to build the foundation from scratch. Rather, we need to ride on the existing platform and leverage on the development partnership and the friendship that we've built since the 1970s. I think that would be all. Thank you.
Great. Oh, okay. I feel bad for the rest of you guys because she's probably some things. Okay. The next word of encouragement, Chai, maybe I see
Yeah,
you
I can.
do that.
I can go first. Like, probably like, for me, it's quite simple. Like, just speaking like, from the standpoint or perspective as like, a member of like, ASEAN Young Scientists Network and representing the young scientists. So we probably do not need to look far. So we probably need to identify and grab like, the low hanging fruit to just kickstart like, the collaboration, like, over here. That Sai, probably I'm looking at you also, like, next year, probably very fast, like, we can start like, looking into having our next ASEAN Emerging Researchers Conference, like, probably we could actually do it together with the Germany, like, to actually set up like, physical, like, platforms, like, we can come together during the conference, like, we could start to look into the matching and having like, the dialogue, like, ongoing. And probably that will be like, some outcomes, like, to look forward to, like, for the ASEAN Emerging Researchers, like, conference, how we could actually like, leverage on like, the platform, as Zarina has already mentioned, to actually bring it forward. And we do not need to start from scratch. So there's already something. So it's just the matter of like, implement it and have a champions to bring it forward.
Great. Okay. Hey, thank you, Chai. Let's talk about that when you come to Chiang Mai. Yeah. Or before that, okay, we're going to have our our science leadership program. See, we built a lot of friendship, and I think we're going to do something good together. Alrighty. Okay, so thank you very much. Next, can I ask Tobias, please?
Okay. So initially, my words of wisdom would have been start very simple with student exchange. This is always we can always implement this. But I would really wish to have someone in Europe and someone in Asian country who can pinpoint me to potential collaborators. So we have said this in the joint lab agreement. We call them ambassadors. So people here would function to identify, because we can't do everything. Other partners in Europe we collaborate with and so on, and extend our network to our Asian countries and partners. And I think the other way around. And I think that's a good way. And I think, yeah, let's call them ambassadors and make it available for more than just the joint labs.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so our last parting word, Professor Sher, please.
Okay, the last words, so to say. Now, I don't want to repeat what I don't want to repeat what all the others have said, because I think there's many really valuable things have been said just now already in the last few minutes. The only thing I would raise our attention to is that this international collaboration actually is more urgent than ever, for a number of reasons. One reason I mentioned before, if we talk about climate change, none of our challenges is handleable within one continent or one country. I think that's very clear. At the same time, we also know, and COVID has done a good deal in there, but also present activities which we have in Europe on wars do things, where obviously there is also a movement in societies which is going more into let's talk much more about nationalism and looking inwards instead of collaboration globally. And I think it's also our at least from my side, it's now a political statement to some extent. I think science has a role to play in bringing this globe to integration and to collaboration, keeping the different positions, the different backgrounds, the different cultures as they are, and work together in a collaboration matter, and not to make everything the same. But I think it's very important that we continue that, even against the movements which are there in some parts of this globe at the moment, to look more on nationalism and more on insight. We should work against that. And I think this is an extremely important aspect which we should also consider.
Okay, thank you so much. Wow, I think we got a lot out of our less than an hour talk. Can I give my last parting word as well, and bringing another hat on behalf of the granting agency? I kind of feel that with the granting agency, I see a lot. I have the database of all the researcher, and I have a chance to interact with them and see their work. If granting agencies come together, we can be like match.com or something, seeing how people can come together and work together even though they don't know each other. And then so the agency, we can see the landscape of the researcher in our own country. So maybe a starting dialogue between granting agency, not just like bilateral, like DFG and PMUB, maybe just add on with the Malaysian granting agency, Indonesian granting agency. I think that would also help be a starting point. I can also identify where is the very potential young scientists or scientists who are willing to do international collaboration. So this is another so just last parting word for us. I just realized that. All right. So thank you so much to all our panelists, and thank you to NSTDA for I will give the screen back to our audience now. Kun Saranyu ค่ะ or Kun Apawan. Any closing remark?
Yeah.
Next phase?
Okay, please allow me to chime in because Dr. Lily had to leave our seminar earlier due to their other commitment. I will be with you to bring today's event to a close. My name is Sarangyu Lamlak, and I am an International Relations Officer at NSTDA. On behalf of NSTDA, I would like to thank all of today's speakers for their excellent presentation, and thank to Dr. Warajit for doing a wonderful job in moderating a discussion. This has been an excellent discussion, and we have enjoyed it enormously. It is clear to me that there are plenty of opportunity for us to expand and deepen our collaboration. There is still much to be discussed, I believe, but I think today marks the beginning of long and fruitful collaborations between Germany and ASEAN in the biocircular green economies. It has been a pleasure to hold this meeting, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Dr. Sai, would you like to say something?
That's it. I said thank you very much, and I look forward to our next dialogue together. And then by focusing and like roll our sleeves up and get into the details of how we can work together. All right. So thank you very much, and have a good day and have a good night, everyone. Yeah. Afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you. You are.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
And before you leave, could you please do our survey as well? Yeah, thank you very much, and goodbye.
Oh, the participant, before you leave, please do the survey. What else do you want for the next dialogue? And maybe you can add on the topic of how what we can do. I see there's 56 participants, please. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have to do the survey, right? And yeah, just put any topic or other comments or what you want the agencies or the regionals level to do as well. And after you finish your evaluation form, you may leave. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, that's for now. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good day.